We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph and Meseches Bava Metzia. This is Bava Metzia Daf 53a. On the previous summit, Chizkiah said that if you have Meiser Sheni that's less than a pruta, you can redeem that Meiser Sheni by using money that was already used to redeem Meiser Sheni. The assumption is that a person doesn't use the exact amount of money to redeem Meiser Sheni, so whatever money he used, there's probably a little extra room there, and so you can use that money to redeem this Meiser Sheni that's less than a pruta. That applies to the Meiser Sheni and the added fifth that you have to add in the redemption. And the Gemara is in the middle of asking a question from a Mishnah Meseches Chala. The Mishnah is talking about Truma and Bikurim, and it's contrasting Truma and Bikurim to Meiser. And the Mishnah continues, Va'asurim Lazarim, when it comes to Truma and Bikurim, it's prohibited to non-Kohanim. Rashi says, Va'asurim Lazarim below Yochal. Again, there's a pasuk, you can't eat it. Ve'itzrich lemisni mishum deboy lemisni masha'in came by Meiser. Now the point over here is that we're trying to say things that are true by Truma and Bikurim that are not true by Meiser. By Meiser, dafilu isr leka. By Meiser, there is no prohibition for the non-Kohen to eat it. Ve'hein nichse Kohen. Furthermore, the Truma and the Bikurim, that's considered property of the Kohen. Rashi explains, V'hein nichse Kohen lekadesh b'enes ha'isha, meaning to say, let's say the Kohen has the Truma and the Bikurim, that's considered to be his property. He can use it for Kiddushin. He can give it to a woman for Kiddushin purposes. Masha'in kain b'Meiser, this is not true by Meiser. And Rashi continues, Stam Mishnah Rabbi Meir. This Mishnah, the Stam Mishnah follows Rabbi Meir. The Amar Meiser Mammon Gavoa, who says that Meiser is considered to be Mammon Gavoa, V'hamekadesh bo lo Kiddush. That's why by the Meiser, it's not a good Kiddushin because it's considered to be Mammon Gavoa. Again, we're talking here about Meiser Sheni. V'olam be'echad umeya, and also there's a concept of bittul by Truma and Bikurim, but it is only bittul if it's 1 in 100. U'tu'unin rechitzas yadayim, also you need to wash hands to have Truma and Bikurim. And Rashi explains on that, U'tu'unim rechitzas yadayim lepeiros. Let's say you want to have the produce, you have to wash your hands. Shahayadayim tameos shnios. The reasoning is because the hands are automatically considered tamei at the level of shnios. They're considered secondary level tumah. Gazru behen rabbanon, that's a gzer mid rabbanon, that hands are considered to be tumah of shnios. V'sheni osa shlishi b'truma, and a sheni can create a shlishi by truma. So specifically by truma, this is a problem. If your hands are a sheni and you touch truma, the truma is going to be a shlishi. Mashein came a meiser. Now this is not true by meiser. Shein ton rechitzas yadayim lepeiros. You don't need to wash the hands for the produce of meiser. Diyamar mar, because the master said hanotel yad of lepeiros, that if somebody does wash his hands for the peiros again of meiser, hareza migase haruach, that person is considered to be arrogant. And so again, rechitzas yadayim is another difference between truma and bikurim as opposed to meiser. And finally, the last one, v'hariv shemesh, the last one is you need to wait for the sun to go down by truma and bikurim. And Rashi explains, V'hariv shemesh l'tumah doraisa, meaning if the person is tamei in a doraisa level, he immerses in the mikvah, so he also has to wait for the sun to go down when it comes to Truma and Bikurim. Masha'in came by Meiser, that's not true by Meiser. The immersion alone is enough by Meiser. Diyamar Marcos, the master said, Taval v'ola ochel b'Meiser. If a person immerses, then right after the immersion he can have Meiser. Umikray alfinan la b'Yevamos b'Peraka Arel. We learned that out from Sukkim in Yevamos in Peraka Arel. And then the Mishnah says again, Hareilu b'Truma Bikurim. These are things that are all true by Truma and Bikurim. Masha'in came by Meiser, and it's not true by Meiser. And so the Gemara now says, "My masha'in came by Meiser." Now, what does it mean when this Mishnah says that it's not true by Meiser in terms of the issue of bittul? Because what did it say? It said that Truma and Bikurim are batel be'echad umeya. So what would be true by Meiser? Obviously, Meiser is not batel in be'echad umeya. What is Meiser batel? Lav mechlal the Meiser batel baru. But doesn't that imply that Meiser is going to be batel barov? As long as you have a majority, you have a concept of bittul. And so the Gemara says, "V'im isa de Chizkiah." Now, if it's true what Chizkiah says, that if you have Meiser Sheni that is less than a Shava Pruta, there is a possibility of redemption. So Havalei Davar Sheyesh L'Matir, and even if you have Meiser Sheni that is less than a Shava Pruta, that is still a Davar Sheyesh L'Matir, and you are able to make it mutter, meaning to say, let's say it falls into a mixture, and you really would have had Bittul Barov, but let's say there's another solution. Here there's another solution. If this Meiser Sheni falls into a mixture, and let's say you could have had Bittul Barov, but you have this other solution, let's say it's less than a Shava Pruta, you would have thought you can't redeem it, you could redeem it, because you can use Chizkiah's solution to use money that was already used for redemption. And so then Havalei Davar Sheyesh L'Matirin, it's a Davar Sheyesh L'Matirin, V'chol Davar Sheyesh L'Matirin, Afilu be'elef lo batel. If it's a Davar Sheyesh L'Matirin, even in 1,000 it wouldn't be nullified. Now the point of the Gemara here is that when we're saying that Meiser Sheni is batel barov, that can't just be standard Meiser Sheni. There's no reason why standard Meiser Sheni would be batel barov, because that's for sure a Davar Sheyesh L'Matirin. The only possibility is, let's say you have Meiser Sheni that's less than a Shava Pruta, so that already you can't redeem, so maybe that's what we're talking about, but according to Chizkiah, you can redeem redeem that as well. So if you can redeem that as well, so again, it's a davar sheyesh lo matir, so it doesn't make sense. That's the question from this Mishnah. And Rashi explains, v'yolin be'echad umei, again, this is the idea of bittul by truma bikurim, tzrichin echad umei levatel. Again, you need 1 in 100 to do the bittul, ve'in betelin berov. Again, when it comes to truma bikurim, there is no bittul in a majority in rov. Masha'ein came a meiser, that's not true by meiser, the batel berov. It is batel berov. V'lo boy echad umei, you don't need 1 in 100. And so therefore now Rashi says, v'al karchach b'meiser she'ein lo takanta, lo b'pediyah, v'lo lahalosel Yerushalayim kamra. We must be talking about some kind of meiser sheni that you can't redeem and you can't bring it to Yerushalayim. There can't be a solution for this meiser sheni that got mixed in. The islay takanta, because if there was some solution, amar rabbanon davar sheyesh lo matir lo batel. So the rabbanon already said that if you have a davar sheyesh lo matir, that's not batel. V'hacha kagon shenitma. So over here the case could be as follows. Let's say it became tamei, the leslay takanta b'achila. So there is no solution in terms of eating it. V'yein bo shavapruta. It's also not worth a shavapruta. It's not worth a pruta. The labar padiyu, so it can't be redeemed. But according to Chizkiya, again, it could be redeemed. So misa lid Chizkiya. So if you hold like Chizkiya, you have this problem. And so the Gemara continues, but how do you know that's the interpretation of the Mishnah? That you're saying that Meiser is different than Truma and Bikurim, because Truma and Bikurim is Batal Echad B'Me'ah, but Meiser Sheni is Batal Berov. Maybe that's not what it means. Dilma lo Batal Klam. Maybe it actually means exactly that. It means that Meiser Sheni is not Batal at all, because again, you have an issue over here of Davar Sheyesh Lo Matir. Maybe that's exactly what it means. It's not a question on Chizki at all. And the Gemara says to that, Lo Matzis Amr Hachi, you can't say that. Delagabe Truma Chumra de Truma Katani. Because what are we listing by Truma? We're listing things that are stringencies by Truma. Kule de Truma lo katani. We're not listing the leniencies by Truma. And therefore, if we're listing stringencies and we're saying that Truma is batal be'echad umeya, you can't say that Meiser is not batal at all. That would be a leniency then by Truma. So it has to be that we're saying again that Meiser Sheni is batal berov. But the Gemara says, well, 1 second, v'hakatani v'hei nechsei kohen. But there is actually a leniency by Truma that's listed in this Mishnah because it says it's the property of the Kohen. So isn't that really like a leniency that he can use it for Kiddushin purposes? The Gemara says, no, lo salkadaitach, don't let that enter your mind. It's not true. We're not learning leniencies over here. You can't say that by Meiser Sheni, or rather, don't let it enter your mind that by Meiser Sheni it's not batal at all. It's not true. The Tanya behedya, because we have a brisa that says this explicitly, it clarifies the meaning of the Mishnah in terms of bittul. Meiser Sheni batal beruba. It says that Meiser Sheni is batal berov. Uve'eza Meiser Sheni amru, and what kind of Meiser Sheni is batal berov? But Meiser she'ein bo shava pruta. We're talking about Meiser that's not worth a pruta. V'shenichnas li Yerushalayim v'yatza, and it entered into Yerushalayim and it left Yerushalayim. So again, there is no matir and there is no other solution. And so still we're back to our question. So if what Chizkiya said was true, that you do have a possibility of redemption, you should do exactly what Chizkiya said, and then you should redeem it on original money, meaning on money that was already used for redemption. Just use that money again for this purpose of this Meiser Sheni that's not worth a pruta. And Rashi explains the Lagabe Truma. This Mishnah is focusing on Truma. Mishnah Zuba Meseches Bikurim. This Mishnah is in Meseches Bikurim. Shenuya, that's where it's taught. And we mentioned above at the top of the Yom, it's also Meseches Chala. But the point is, Hilkach Chashivusa Dida Kamani. Therefore, if we're focusing on Truma, we're saying things that are chashav about Truma. Kamani v'ozol. Those are the things that are being enumerated. V'lav Kule Dida. We're not saying the leniencies, Shetahehi Olo, Meiser Eino Ola, that it's going to be able to be batal and Meiser not. That can't be. And then the Gemara said, Lo Salkadaitach. You can't say the Lo Batal Klal. There's no way to say that Meiser Sheni is not batal at all. Elavadai batal barov kamar. It's got to be saying that it's batal barov, and the Gemara brought a brisa to prove that. And then the Gemara said, "V'shenichnas li Yerushalayim v'yatza." We're talking about this Meiser Sheni that entered in Yerushalayim and then it left. And lekamon mefarish. Further on, we're going to explain the lesle takanta that such Meiser Sheni there is no solution for it. Lo b'achila v'lo b'chila. You can't eat it and you can't redeem it, and that's why, since you can't eat it, you can't redeem it. It's not a davar sheyesh lo matir, and that's why it's batal barov. And so the Gemara continues and answers the reason why you can't use Chizkiya's solution, you can't use the Mos or Rishonos, is the low park, because you haven't redeemed any Meiser Sheni yet. You actually have no such coins. As Rashi explains, the low park, lo pader Meiser adheni. You didn't redeem any Meiser until now. Shiyu Mos Meiser biyado, that he should have money of Meiser Sheni in his possession, that he can use Chizkiya's solution, and that's why he can't use Chizkiya's solution. And again, since there's no solution, that's why it's batal barov. But the Gemara says, V'nesi Meiser disli. But why doesn't he just bring Meiser that he has? V'nitzrefinu, and then he'll just combine the Meiser, so he'll have a pruta. pruta. As Rashi says, v'nesi meiser shava chatzi pruta. Just bring meiser that's worth a half a pruta. When it's saref yevienu etzel hamurav, and then he should bring it near the other meiser sheni that got mixed in with other produce. Again, the case over here is that you have meiser sheni that's being batel barov, and we're saying there is another solution. You don't have to use bittel barov. Just bring some other meiser, bring it nearby. V'yomer, and then he should just say hamurav v'zem mechulalim al pruta zu. I'm taking whatever's mixed here plus what I'm putting next to it, and that should all be redeemed on this pruta. V'shtakach diyesh lamatir. And we're still back to our question because it still could be a davar sheyesh lamatir. Now, this is not a question specifically on Chizkiah. This is now just a general question. Why isn't the meiser sheni a davar sheyesh lamatir? And the Gemara says to that, "Oraisa udrabanan lo mitzdarfi." You can't do that because you can't put together something that's obligated on a doraisa level, which is the regular meiser sheni, and something that's only obligated on a dorabanan level, which is the meiser sheni that really technically on a doraisa level is batel in the mixture, but davar sheyesh lamatir is a dorabanan, so it's an obligation on a dorabanan level. You can't combine, so that's why that's not a solution. And Rashi explains, doraisa dorabanan lo mitzdarfi. You can't combine a doraisa and dorabanan litfos pruta zu b'kedushas meiser to say that this pruta, this coin, is going to have the kedushas meiser. Shama'urav min haTorah batel barov, because again, that which was mixed in the mixture is batel barov on a doraisa level. Like it says in the pasuk. It's just the Rabbanan who say that if there's some other solution, there's no bittel. Hilkach ein iser meiser bazael midrabanan. Therefore, the entire prohibition of this meiser is only the Rabbanan. Hilkach ein mitzdarif imzel litfos pidyon. Therefore, you can't combine it with the other meiser sheni in order to create a pidyon. Nimsa shava chatzi pruta shehevi nechel below chil. It would come out that half pruta that he brought is essentially being eaten without a good redemption. Avol de Chizkiah mos harishonos kvar nitvasu. But when it comes to Chizkiah had a real solution, because Chizkiah's solution was you're going to use original money that already worked, it was already effective for redemption, and then just add this on. That would have been effective. And so the Gemara continues with another possible solution. V'nesi demai. Why can't he bring demai? Demai is essentially produce that you're not sure exactly what its status is, and that's only obligated on a drabanan level, so you should bring that. And the Gemara says to that, Dil ma'asi laisuya vade. Well, maybe what you're going to end up doing by mistake is you'll bring vade, and that already could be a problem. And Rashi explains, V'nesi chatzi shava pruta de meiser sheni shel demai. Why doesn't he bring a half a pruta of meiser sheni of demai? Halakuach me'am oretz, meaning it was bought from an am oretz. The isuru upidyono derabanan, because there the prohibition and the redemption is all derabanan. The midoraisa kol adam ne'aman ala meisers, because midoraisa people are believed when it comes to meiser. And the Gemara says to that, Dil ma'asi lasuya vade, because you might end up not bringing demai. V'yaz nimsa shava chatzi pruta sheinu mu'urav nechol below chil. And again, it's going to come out that half pruta that wasn't in the mixture is going to be eaten without a proper redemption. And the Gemara continues and presents another possible solution which would make it a davar sheyesh lamatirin. V'nesi shtei prutos. Why doesn't he bring two prutos? Unechalel alayu meiser bepruto mechza. Then take meiser sheni that's at the value of 1.5 prutos, so there'll still be a remainder of a half a pruta. Unechalel hayal hech yaseir. And then this extra meiser sheni that was in the mixture that's worth a half a pruta, he can just put it on whatever the remainder is in that last pruta. And the Gemara says that's not a solution because misavrit pruto mechza tafsa. Do you think that when you have a pruta and mechza of meiser sheni, the tafsa shtei prutos, that it's going to actually take hold, so to speak, of the two prutos? That's not what's going to happen. Lo no, pruta tafsa pruta. What's going to happen is the pruta of meiser sheni will go on the pruta, the chatzi pruta, and then the chatzi pruta, the half a pruta you have remaining of meiser sheni, lo tafsa, that's not able, you're not able to redeem a half a pruta, and so you're actually still going to be left with a half a pruta that's not going to work, and so then hadar havale doraisa d'rabbanan, now you have left a meiser sheni on a doraisa level, and you have the meiser sheni in the mixture on a d'rabbanan level, and as we said, udoraisa d'rabbanan lo mitzdarfi. If you have doraisa and d'rabbanan, that's not going to join together. And Rashi here explains, V'nesi shtei prutos nechoshes, bring two prutos of copper, v'yachalal alein meiser shava pruto mechza, and then you'll take meiser sheni that's 1.5 prutos, and then you'll put those onto the two prutos with a half a pruta remaining on the coin. Unechalale l'hai ma'urav al hech chatzi pruta yisera t'havalei kedechizkin, and then you'll take that part of that meiser sheni in the mixture, which is worth a half a pruta, just like Chizkiah said, you'll put it on the remainder of that coin, just like Chizkiah. But the Gemara says that's not a solution either. Misavrit shava pruto mechza meiser. Do you think if you have 1.5 pruta of meiser, do you think that that's tafsa shtei prutos, that would just go onto the two prutos, bikdusha, and it would, with the holiness properly, denimsa hechlet starufi badayu shekvar nitvasu, and then essentially you'd have a remainder on one of the coins, and then you could use that for the half a pruta in the mixture? That wouldn't work. Pruta tafsa shava pruta min meiser. What actually would happen is the one pruta would go on the one pruta, that coin, and chatzi pruta hanoser b'meiser, and that half pruta remaining in the half pruta of meiser sheni, again that's not in the mixture, lo tafsa la pruta shni, it actually wouldn't be redeemed at all on that pruta, on that second pruta. And Rashi continues, Vim Tomar Hama'urav Bo Yitztarif. Now, if you're going to try to say, let's join together the mixture with the half a pruta remaining, Lahashlam Hadar Havale Doraisa Drabonan. That's not going to work because now you have Doraisa Drabonan together. Vim Basalomar. Now, if you're going to ask on this, to Chizkiya Nami, well, if that's true, how does Chizkiya make any sense at all, anyways? Hechi Mashkachas. How do you ever have Sheyesh Odef that you're going to have a little extra room on a coin to put the half a pruta? So the whole Chizkiya doesn't make sense once we're saying this. Al Yedei Minitvas. How's that going to work? Mashkachas Le B'Mechal Meiser B'Sela Shalom. No, Chizkiya's case could work. Let's say you have one coin. Let's say you have a full sela, or b'shekel, or b'isser, or you have a coin a full shekel or a full isser. Shafilu lo haya ha-meiser shava l'shalosh prutos. So then, if the meiser is only, let's say, three prutos, nitfas kol isser. So then the isser is going to essentially redeem, but there'll be a little extra room. That's how Chizkiya's case makes sense. And so the Gemara therefore continues exactly along these lines. Why don't we do that? V'naisi isser. Let's bring one coin that's a larger coin. Let's bring an isser, and then you'll bring that. You'll have some extra room. You'll be able to redeem the half a pruta that got mixed in, the half a pruta of Meiser Sheni that got mixed in, and that'll follow Chizkiya. And the Gemara says to that, well, that actually would be a solution, but we don't allow that solution because Dil Ma'asi Laisuya Prutos, we're afraid, okay, you could bring an Isser, technically that would work, but you might accidentally bring Prutos, which will not work, and therefore this is not considered a solution, and that's why it is not a Dover Sheyesh Lo Matirin. And Rashi explains, V'nesi Isser Shalom, just bring a full Isser, V'yachal olav Meiser b'pachos midamav, and then you'll redeem the Meiser that's worth less than an Isser, you'll have a little extra room on the coin. And again, the Gemara answered, Gezer dil masi lasuya beis prutos, it's a Gezer, you might bring 2 prutos, Meiser b'pruto umechza, and again, you'll have Meiser at 1.5 prutos, V'nimsa shavachatzi pruta nechel below chilul, it's going to come out again, a half a pruta will not have chilul, Hilkach tov lo she'avatel barov, therefore we're afraid of that solution, instead we rely on bittul barov. And the Gemara continues, V'shenichnas liYerushalayim v'yatza, the Brais had a second case of Meiser Sheni where there is no solution, and so it's not a davar sheyesh lo matirin. That would be if you have Meiser Sheni, let's say it's even more than a pruta, but you have Meiser Sheni that entered into Yerushalayim and left. There's no solution for that Meiser Sheni, and there we would say it's batal barov. And so the Gemara asks on that, V'yamai, well, why does that make it that there's no solution? V'lahadr v'na'ayle, why not just bring it back into Yerushalayim? You'll have no problem. And the Gemara says to that, B'shenitma, we're talking about where it became tameh when it went outside of Yerushalayim. And the Gemara still says, V'nifrake, but still, why can't you redeem it? To Yom Rebbe Lazar, because Rebbe Lazar said, Minayin l'Meiser Sheni shenitma shepodino. So how do you know if you have Meiser Sheni that became tameh that you are allowed to redeem it? And Rashi explains, V'la'ayle im taruvasu. In other words, why don't you bring it back into Yerushalayim, even though it got mixed up? Bring it back in with the mixture of Yochlani Yerushalayim and eat it in Yerushalayim. And then the Gemara said, V'nifrake, well, why can't you redeem it? Because again, as we said, Kasal Kadaitach, right now the Gemara thinks, B'yesh bo shava pruta nami kamer. We're talking about where it is worth a pruta. That's also a scenario. This is an independent case from the previous case where it was not worth a pruta, and so that's why the Gemara is asking you should be able to redeem it, even if it is tameh, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis.